I stood in the auto repair shop, watching Frank crawl out from under my sedan. His face drained of color. He grabbed my wrist, whispered urgently that someone sabotaged my brake lines, told me not to drive, said it looked like a trap set by someone close. My phone buzzed. A text from my son, Brian. "Mom, hurry up, we need to talk now. Come to the house. It's about Dad's estate. Don't tell anyone." My hands shook. I suddenly understood. I got behind the wheel anyway. My heart pounded as I steered my car carefully away from Frank's shop. But I didn't head home like that text message demanded. Instead, I pulled into the parking lot of a grocery store 3 blocks away, my hands trembling on the wheel. I needed time to think. I needed to breathe. Frank had been my mechanic for 15 years. He was a straight shooter, a man who'd never once tried to upsell me on services I didn't need. When he showed me that brake line under my car, cleanly cut, deliberately severed, I saw the fear in his 62-year-old eyes. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't wear and tear. Someone wanted me dead. And the way he hesitated before telling me, the way his voice dropped to barely a whisper when he said it looked like someone close to me. Someone who knew my routine. Someone who had access. My stomach turned. 6 months. It had been 6 months since my husband Gerald died of a massive heart attack at 68 years old. One moment he was laughing at a television show. The next he was clutching his chest. And then he was gone. The grief had been overwhelming. A weight that pressed down on me every single morning when I woke up alone in our bed. But through that grief, something else had been happening. Something I'd tried to ignore because I didn't want to believe it. Brian had changed. My son, my 39-year-old boy who used to call me every Sunday just to chat, had become someone I barely recognized. The day after Gerald's funeral, Brian asked about the will. Not in a casual way, not in a just so I know way, but with an urgency that felt wrong. His wife, Courtney, stood beside him with her arms crossed, her face hard, her eyes calculating. Over the following weeks, Brian visited often, but the visits felt transactional. He'd ask about paperwork, about accounts, about assets. When I tried to talk about his father, about memories, about grief, he'd changed the subject. Courtney stopped coming altogether. When I called their house, she was cold, making pointed remarks about what's fair and what people deserve. I'd noticed other things too. Brian bought a new truck, a massive Ford F-250 that must have cost $60,000. He wore expensive watches, designer clothes. He took trips to Atlantic City. When I asked about it, he shrugged it off, said his business was doing well, but I knew his small contracting company had been struggling for years. And then there were the accidents. A month ago, I was changing a light bulb on a ladder in my garage. The ladder collapsed beneath me. I fell hard, bruised my hip and shoulder. Brian had borrowed that ladder the week before to clean his gutters. He brought it back, said it was fine. 3 weeks ago, I woke up at 2 a.m. to the smell of gas. The stove had been left on, all 4 burners, no flame, just gas pouring into my kitchen. I'd used that stove the night before to make dinner, turned everything off like I always did. But maybe I was getting forgetful. Maybe grief was making me careless. 2 weeks ago, my car started having brake problems. Spongy pedal, longer stopping distance. I took it to Frank. He found a small leak in the brake line, fixed it, said it was probably just age. The car was 12 years old. But now, Frank had found another cut brake line. Not age. Not accident, deliberate. And that text message. "Mom, hurry up, we need to talk now. Come to the house. It's about Dad's estate. Don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone." That phrase stuck in my mind like a splinter. Why wouldn't Brian want me to tell anyone? What about his father's estate required secrecy and urgency? I knew the answer. I'd known it for weeks, but hadn't wanted to face it. Gerald's will left everything to me, with the stipulation that Brian would receive his inheritance when I turned 80 or upon my death, whichever came first. Gerald had been specific about it. He knew about Brian's gambling problem, knew about the money troubles, knew that a sudden influx of cash would destroy our son rather than help him. $800,000. That's what Gerald left behind. Our house. Paid off. Worth $450,000. Retirement accounts. Life insurance. Savings. Everything accumulated over 43 years of marriage. And Brian would get his half when I died. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Brian's number. Where are you? I'm waiting. This is urgent. But something caught my eye. Something wrong. I looked closer at the phone number on the messages. The area code was different. Brian's number started with 508, our local Massachusetts area code. This number started with 617, the Boston area code. Someone was impersonating my son. This wasn't Brian setting a trap for me. Someone else was. And if someone was pretending to be Brian to lure me somewhere, to get me behind the wheel of a car with cut brake lines, then where was my real son? My hands went cold. I pulled up Brian's actual contact and called him. He answered on the first ring, his voice frantic. Mom! Mom, where are you? I've been trying to call you all morning, but it keeps going straight to voicemail. Brian, I'm at the grocery store on Maple Street. What's happening? Don't go home, he shouted. Don't go anywhere alone. Mom, I'm in so much trouble. I've done something terrible, and now they're after you. My heart dropped into my stomach. Who's after me? Brian, what did you do? I heard him take a shaking breath. When he spoke again, his voice broke. I borrowed money. A lot of money. From the wrong people. And now they want it back, but I can't pay them. Mom, they said there's another way to get the money. They said if something happened to you, it'd inherit immediately, and they could take what I owe from that. The world tilted. My own son, not directly, but his debt, his mistakes, had put a target on my back. How much? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. $80,000. I closed my eyes. $80,000, a sum that seemed enormous and yet pathetically small compared to a human life. My life. Who did you borrow from? His name is Vincent Torres. Mom, I swear I didn't know what kind of man he was. I thought he was just a private lender. I was desperate. The business was failing. Courtney was threatening to leave. I had bills piling up, and I thought I could win it back at the casino. Thought I could fix everything before anyone found out. Gambling, always gambling. Gerald had warned him, had tried to help him, had structured the will specifically to protect Brian from his own worst impulses. Brian, where are you right now? I'm at my house. But Mom, 2 days ago Vincent came to me with a plan. He said if you died in an accident, it'd get the inheritance right away. I told him no. I told him it'd never hurt you, that it'd find another way to pay him back, but he just smiled and said it would happen with or without my cooperation. He said he'd already put things in motion. The brake lines, the text messages from a fake number. Has been impersonating you, I said. Sending me texts, trying to lure me somewhere. Mom, you have to believe me, I would never. I believe you, I said, and I meant it. Despite everything, despite the fear and the betrayal, I knew my son. I knew the man Gerald and I had raised. Every instinct screamed at me to call the police. But what if they hurt Brian while I waited? What if 30 minutes wasn't enough time? Then I remembered Frank. Frank, who'd just saved my life by discovering the sabotage. Frank, who'd looked at me with such concern and fear. I called him. Frank answered immediately. Mandy, are you okay? Where are you? I explained everything in a rush. The fake texts, the real call with Brian, the threats, the abduction. I told him about the $80,000 debt, about Vincent Torres, about the address had been given and the 30-minute deadline. Frank was quiet for 3 seconds. Then he said, Stay exactly where you are. Don't move. I'm calling my nephew. Your nephew, Marcus Hayes, has a detective with the county police. Mandy, listen to me very carefully. This is bigger than a debt. This is organized crime. You cannot go to that address alone. But Brian. I know. We're going to get him, but we're going to do it smart. Give me 5 minutes. Those 5 minutes felt like 5 hours. I sat in my car in that grocery store parking lot, watching people walk in and out with their shopping carts, living their normal lives, unaware that mine was falling apart. Frank called back. Marcus is on his way to meet us, Hes bringing equipment. Mandy, I'm going to fix your brake lines properly right now. It'll take me 15 minutes, and then you're going to drive to that address, but you won't be alone. I'll follow you in my truck. Marcus will be coordinating with other units. Well, have eyes on you the whole time. They said I have 30 minutes. Then we'd better move fast. Drive back here. Now. I did. I drove back to Frank's shop with my heart in my throat, praying the partially cut brake line would hold for 3 more blocks. It did. Frank already had my car up on the lift. He worked with an efficiency I'd never seen, his hands sure and fast. While he worked, he talked. My son died 5 years ago, he said, not looking at me. Focused on the brake line. Danny. Got involved with drugs, borrowed money from dealers to feed his habit. They owned him. When he couldn't pay, they killed him. Made it look like an overdose. I couldn't prove it, but I knew. I've spent 5 years wishing I could go back, wishing I'd seen the signs earlier, wishing I'd been able to save him. His hands stilled for just a moment. I'm not going to let another mother lose her son if I can help it. Tears stung my eyes. Frank, I didn't know. I'm so sorry. My wife left me after Danny died. She blamed me. Said I should have done more. Maybe she was right. I've been alone since then, just me in this shop and a lot of regrets. He finished the brake line repair and lowered the car. But today, right now, I can do something. We can do something. A police car pulled into the lot. A man in his 30s got out, tall and athletic, with Frank's same steady eyes. Marcus Hayes. He shook my hand. Mrs. Paulson, I need you to understand the situation. Vincent Torres is not just a loan shark. Has been on our radar for 3 years. FBI has a file on him. He specializes in a particular type of crime. He targets people with gambling problems, loans them money at impossible interest rates, and then when they can't pay, he forces them into criminal schemes. Usually insurance fraud or inheritance scams. My blood ran cold. How many times has he done this? Marcus' jaw tightened. We suspect he's been involved in 17 suspicious deaths over the past decade. Mostly wives, a few husbands, one elderly father. People who died in accidents that benefited someone in debt to Vincent. We've never been able to prove his involvement. Hes careful. He uses intermediaries, creates distance, makes sure nothing traces back to him. 17 people, I whispered. 17 that we know of. Mrs. Paulson, if your son refused to cooperate with Vincent's plan, you're both in immediate danger. Vincent doesn't leave loose ends. He'll kill you to make a point, and he'll kill Brian to eliminate a witness. Then why give me 30 minutes? Why tell me where to go? Because he thinks he's in control. He thinks you're a scared widow who'll do exactly what he says. He wants you to drive there with faulty brakes, have an accident on the way, die before you ever reach the warehouse. Clean, simple, looks like a tragic car malfunction. Brian becomes the grieving son who inherits. But I had the brakes fixed, which means you're walking into an ambiguous situation. Hes expecting a corpse. Hes going to get a living, breathing woman. Marcus pulled out a small device from his pocket. This is a wire. You're going to wear it under your shirt. Everything Vincent says will be recorded and transmitted to me in real time. It'll be 2 blocks away with backup units. Can't you just raid the place? Not without cause, and not without risking Brian's life. If Vincent's people see police coming, they'll kill him and scatter. We need evidence. We need Vincent to incriminate himself on tape. Then we move in. I nodded, trying to control my shaking hands. Marcus helped me put on the wire, a tiny microphone that clipped to my bra strap, nearly invisible. Frank handed me my car keys. Your brakes are perfect now. The car is safe. You're safe. We won't let anything happen to you. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that this plan would work, that we'd save Brian, that justice would be served. But as I got behind the wheel of my car, the wheel that someone had tried to turn into my death sentence, I couldn't shake the feeling that Vincent Torres was several steps ahead of us. I drove toward 1847 Riverside Road with Frank's truck following at a discreet distance. In my rearview mirror, I could see him, solid and dependable. In my ear, through a tiny earpiece Marcus had given me, I heard his voice. "Mandy, I'm tracking your location. You're 3 minutes out. When you get there, park in front of the building. Walk in through the main entrance. Act scared but cooperative. Let Vincent talk. The more he says, the more evidence we have. Don't be a hero. Well, come in the second you're in danger. What about Brian?" "Well, get him out, I promise." Promises. How much were they worth when facing a serial killer? I pulled up to the warehouse. It was exactly what I'd imagined. Old, brick, windows broken, graffiti on the walls, the kind of place where terrible things happened and nobody heard the screams. I parked. I got out. My legs felt like water. The door was unlocked. I pushed it open and stepped inside. The warehouse was dark, lit only by sunlight streaming through broken windows. Dust motes danced in the beams. The air smelled like rust and decay. "Hello?" My voice echoed. "Mrs. Paulson." A man's voice, calm and polite, came from the shadows. "I'm impressed. I was certain you'd have an unfortunate accident on the way here." Vincent Torres stepped into the light. He wasn't what I expected. I'd imagined someone brutish, scarred, obviously dangerous. Instead, he looked like a banker, mid-50s, well-dressed in slacks and a button-down shirt, clean-shaven, almost handsome. His eyes were cold, though, empty. "Where's my son?" Vincent gestured to the left. As my eyes adjusted to the darkness, I saw Brian tied to a chair about 20 feet away. His face was bruised, lips split, but he was conscious. When he saw me, he made a sound of protest through the duct tape over his mouth. 2 large men stood behind Brian. One had a shaved head and neck tattoos. The other had long hair pulled back in a ponytail. They looked bored, like this was routine. "Brian's fine," Vincent said. "For now. Whether he stays that way depends entirely on you, Mrs. Paulson. You got me here. Let him go." Vincent smiled. "I'm afraid it's not that simple. You see, your son owes me a significant sum of money, $80,000 plus interest, which brings the total to $120,000. He can't pay, but you can." I remembered what Marcus said. Let him talk. Get evidence. I don't have that kind of cash, but you have assets. Your home is worth $450,000. You have retirement accounts, life insurance policies. You're a wealthy woman, Mrs. Paulson. That money is tied up. I can't access it immediately. Vincent walked in a slow circle around me. "That's the problem with estates, isn't it? Everything takes time. Probate, paperwork, waiting periods. Very inconvenient when someone needs cash urgently." He stopped in front of me. "But there's a faster way. You see, if something unfortunate were to happen to you, Brian would inherit immediately. The estate would be settled quickly, and I could collect what Im owed from his inheritance." "You want me to die so you can steal from my son? Steal is such an ugly word. I prefer to think of it as debt collection." I forced myself to stay calm, to keep him talking. "How many times have you done this? How many people have you killed for their inheritance?" Vincent's smile widened. "You've been doing research, good for you. Let's just say, I've been very successful in my business model. I find people with weaknesses, people like your son who make poor choices. I offer them a solution to their immediate problems, and when they can't follow through on their end of the agreement, I implement alternative solutions. You're a murderer. I'm a businessman. There's a difference." Behind me, I heard Frank's voice in my earpiece, so quiet I almost missed it. "Keep going. We need more." "What about Courtney?" I asked, grasping for anything to keep Vincent talking. Vincent's expression flickered. Just for a second, surprise crossed his face. Then it was gone. "What about her? Brian's wife. She left him 3 weeks ago, took their children to Pennsylvania. Does she know what you're planning?" "Courtney," Vincent said slowly, "is none of your concern. but the way he said her name, with a familiarity that made my skin crawl, told me everything I needed to know. "She hired you," I said, the realization hitting me like a physical blow. "This isn't just about Brian's debt. Courtney hired you to kill us both." Vincent's cold smile returned. "You're smarter than I gave you credit for." "Yes, Courtney approached me 6 weeks ago. Shed discovered Brian's gambling debts and decided to cut her losses. She has a life insurance policy on your son worth $500,000. She wanted him gone and wanted it to look accidental. When I told her about Brian's debt to me, we realized we could solve both our problems simultaneously. Kill you. Brian inherits and I collect from the estate. Then kill Brian, make it look like guilt-driven suicide, and Courtney collects the life insurance. She splits the insurance payout with me, and everyone's happy. Except Brian and me, I thought. Except the two people who'd be dead." Brian was making muffled sounds of rage and disbelief behind his gag. His own wife had put a price on his head. "You won't get away with this," I said. "I already have. 17 times before, Mrs. Paulson. Do you really think the 18th time will be any different?" Vincent pulled a gun from his waistband. "Now, here's what's going to happen. This is very unfortunate, but you're going to attack me, force me to defend myself. Your son, distraught over your death and consumed with guilt over his gambling debts, will then take his own life. A family tragedy. So sad." The two thugs moved toward Brian. In my ear, Marcus' voice urgent. "Now, Mandy, create an opening. Hit the ground." I didn't think. I just acted. There was a metal pipe on the ground near my feet, rusty and heavy. I grabbed it and swung it as hard as I could at the nearest thug, the one with the shaved head. I was aiming for his knee, but in my fear and adrenaline, I hit his shin instead. It didn't matter. He went down with a scream. The thug with the ponytail lunged toward me, but Brian, his hand still tied to the chair, threw his entire body weight forward. The chair tipped, and Brian crashed into the thug's legs, taking him down. Everything happened at once. The warehouse doors burst open. Frank came through first, followed by Marcus and 4 other officers, guns drawn, shouting commands. Vincent spun toward them, raising his gun. Marcus fired. The shot went wide, hitting the brick wall behind Vincent. Vincent aimed at me. Brian, still bound to the chair on the ground, saw it happening. He screamed something behind his gag and, using his legs, pushed himself across the floor between me and Vincent. The gun fired. Brian jerked as the bullet hit him in the right shoulder. He fell forward, blood spreading across his shirt. I screamed and dropped to my knees beside him. Frank tackled Vincent from behind before he could fire again. They went down hard. Marcus and the other officers swarmed the 2 thugs, weapons drawn, shouting commands to get on the ground. Within seconds, all 3 men were in handcuffs. Vincent's gun was kicked away, sliding across the concrete floor. I ripped the duct tape off Brian's mouth and pressed my hands against his shoulder wound, trying to stop the bleeding. "Mom," he gasped. "Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "Shh, don't talk. You're going to be okay. I almost got you killed. You saved me. You put yourself between me and that bullet. You saved me." Tears ran down his face, mixing with blood and sweat. "I'm sorry for everything. The gambling, the debt, the lies. I'm sorry Dad's not here to see what I've become. I'm sorry I let you down." I cradled his head in my lap, still pressing on the wound. "You're my son. I love you. That's all that matters right now." Marcus knelt beside us. "Ambulance is 2 minutes out. Has going to be fine, Mrs. Paulson." The bullet went through the shoulder, missed the major vessels. "He'll need surgery, but he'll recover." I looked up at Vincent, now handcuffed and being led toward the door by 2 officers. He looked back at me, and for the first time, his calm facade cracked. He looked angry. "You should have died in that car," he said. "But I didn't," I replied. "And now you're going to prison for the rest of your life." Marcus read Vincent his rights while Frank helped me keep pressure on Brian's wound until the paramedics arrived. As they loaded Brian onto a stretcher, he grabbed my hand. "Don't leave me. Never, I said. I'm right here. But as the ambulance doors closed and we sped toward the hospital, Marcus' words echoed in my mind. Courtney hired you to kill us both. My daughter-in-law, the mother of my grandchildren, had orchestrated this entire nightmare. And she was still out there, still free, still planning to collect on Brian's life insurance policy. This wasn't over yet. The bullet had gone clean through Brian's shoulder, missing bone and major arteries by what the surgeon called remarkable luck. After a 3-hour surgery to repair muscle and tissue damage, they moved him to a recovery room. I sat beside his bed, holding his hand, watching him sleep under the influence of pain medication. Marcus came in around 8 in the evening. He looked exhausted. How is he? Marcus asked quietly. He'll make a full recovery. 6 to 8 weeks of physical therapy, but no permanent damage. Marcus nodded and pulled up a chair. I need to tell you what we found. I braced myself. Vincent Torres is in custody. So are his 2 associates, Carl and JP. They're already cooperating, giving us information in exchange for reduced sentences. What they're telling us is worse than we thought. How could it be worse? Vincent has been running this scheme for 12 years, not 10. We've confirmed 23 deaths connected to him, not 17. He had a contact inside the police department who'd been tipping him off to investigations. Officer Dale Preston. Worked in records. Has been arrested. The FBI is taking over the case because it crosses state lines. 23 people. 23 families destroyed. What about Courtney? Marcus' expression darkened. That's the urgent part. Courtney withdrew $300,000 from hidden accounts yesterday morning. Money she'd been embezzling from Brian's business over the past 2 years. She bought plane tickets to Costa Rica under a fake name. She has Emma and Jake with her. She's planning to disappear. I sat up straight. My grandchildren. We've issued an Amber Alert. FBI is involved because of the international flight risk. But Mandy, she's smart. She's covered her tracks well. We're trying to locate her before she leaves the country. The hospital room door opened. Frank stood there, holding 2 cups of coffee. Had refused to leave the hospital. Had been waiting in the lobby for hours. I thought you might need this, he said, handing me a cup. Marcus filled Frank in on the situation with Courtney. Frank's expression grew grim. Where would she go before leaving the country? Frank asked. She'd need to get the kids' passports, any important documents. She has all that, Marcus said. She's been planning this for weeks. I thought about Courtney. I'd known her for 11 years, since she and Brian started dating. I'd never particularly liked her. She was cold, calculating, always concerned with appearances and status, but I never imagined she was capable of murder. Her mother lives in Scranton, I said. Pennsylvania. Patricia Rogers. But Courtney wouldn't go there. Too obvious. She has a sister, though. Angela. She lives in rural Virginia, somewhere near the Blue Ridge Mountains. Courtney visited her last summer with the kids. Marcus pulled out his phone and started typing. Do you know the sister's last name? She got married. Angela Brennan, I think. Marcus made some calls. Within 10 minutes, he had an address. Angela Brennan, Greenfield, Virginia. That's 4 hours from here, Marcus said. Virginia State Police can check it out. No, I said firmly. I'm going. Those are my grandchildren. Mandy, that's not safe. I don't care. Emma is 7 years old. Jake is 10. They're terrified. Their mother is having some kind of breakdown, planning to flee the country, and they don't understand why. I need to be there. Brian stirred in the bed. His eyes opened, cloudy with medication. Mom. I leaned close. I'm here, sweetheart. Where's Courtney? He slurred. I exchanged glances with Marcus. We'd have to tell him eventually. Brian, Courtney was working with Vincent. She hired him to kill both of us. She has the kids, and she's planning to run. Even through the medication fog, I saw the devastation on his face. His wife, the woman he'd loved for 14 years, the mother of his children, had tried to have him murdered. Emma and Jake, he whispered. Are they safe? We're going to get them. I promised. I won't let anything happen to your children. Brian tried to sit up, winced in pain, fell back against the pillows. I'm coming with you. You just had surgery. I don't care. Those are my kids. The nurse came in, alarmed by the activity. Marcus explained the situation. She shook her head firmly. Mr. Paulson needs to stay here for at least 48 hours. Hes on IV, antibiotics, pain medication. He just came out of surgery. Brian looked at me with pleading eyes. Mom, please. Don't let her take them away. I won't, I said. I promise. Against medical advice and the nurse's strenuous objections, Brian checked himself out of the hospital an hour later. He could barely stand, his arm in a sling, his face pale with pain. But his determination was absolute. Frank drove us to Virginia in his truck, with Marcus coordinating with Virginia State Police from the passenger seat. Courtney was erratic, possibly armed, threatening to harm herself and the children if police tried to enter. Through a front window, I caught a glimpse of movement. Emma's small face appeared, pressed against the glass. She was crying. I couldn't stand it anymore. I'm going in, I said. Mrs. Paulson, that's not protocol, Captain Williams said. I'm their grandmother. She won't hurt me. We can't guarantee your safety. I don't need guarantees. I need to get those children out of there. Marcus put his hand on my shoulder. Mandy, think about this. I have thought about it. Every second we stand here arguing is another second those babies are terrified. I'm going. Before anyone could stop me, I walked toward the house, hands raised, moving slowly into the light. Courtney, I called out. It's Mandy. I'm alone. I'm not armed. I just want to talk. The front door cracked open. Courtney stood there, disheveled, her eyes wild. She was holding Emma in her arms. The child was sobbing, reaching toward me. Grandma! Emma cried. Get away from here! Courtney screamed. This is your fault. All of this is your fault. I stopped 20 feet from the door, keeping my voice calm. Courtney, I know you're scared. I know everything feels like it's falling apart. But those children need you. They need their mother to be strong, to make the right choice. The right choice. Courtney laughed, a harsh, broken sound. The right choice was leaving Brian 2 years ago when I found out about the gambling. But I stayed. I tried to make it work. And what did I get? Debt, lies, humiliation. He destroyed everything. I know Brian made terrible mistakes. Mistakes. She was crying now, still clutching Emma. He gambled away our children's college funds. He took out loans against our house without telling me. I found receipts from casinos, from card games, from sports betting sites. Hundreds of thousands of dollars, gone. When I confronted him, he promised to stop. He promised. But he never did. So you decided to kill him. Courtney's face crumpled. I just wanted it to end. I wanted to take the kids and start over somewhere new. Somewhere he couldn't find us. But I needed money. The life insurance policy, it was just sitting there. And I thought, if something happened to him, we'd be free. We'd be safe. We'd have enough money to disappear and build a new life. And me? Did you want me dead too? She looked away. Vincent said it had to be both of you. He said if just Brian died, you'd fight for custody of the kids. That you'd never let me take them away. He said it had to be clean. Both of you gone. So the kids and I could leave without anyone looking for us. Emma was crying harder, struggling in her mother's arms. I want Grandma. I want my grandma. Behind Courtney, I could see Jake standing in the hallway, his face frozen in shock, watching his mother's breakdown. Courtney, I said gently, those children need you alive. They need you healthy and present, not in prison. If you surrender now, if you cooperate with the police, there's a chance for a reduced sentence. You could be with your children again someday. But if you hurt yourself, if you hurt them, there's no coming back from that. I can't go to prison. I can't. You can survive it. You're strong enough. But Emma and Jake can't survive losing their mother. Please, Courtney, let them go. Let me take them. You can work with the police, with lawyers. There's still a chance for redemption. Courtney's grip on Emma loosened. The child slipped from her arms and ran toward me. I caught her, held her tight. She wrapped her little arms around my neck and buried her face in my shoulder. Jake appeared in the doorway beside his mother. He looked at me, then at the police cars, then back at Courtney. "Mom," he said quietly, "I think we should go with Grandma." Courtney sank to her knees on the porch, sobbing. Marcus and Captain Williams moved forward carefully. 2 officers gently took Courtney into custody while Jake walked toward me. I opened one arm, and he pressed against my side. Both children were crying, confused, traumatized. Brian appeared beside me, Frank supporting him, his face twisted with pain and grief. When Emma and Jake saw their father, they pulled away from me and rushed to him. "Daddy," Emma cried. Brian dropped to his knees, ignoring the agony in his shoulder, and wrapped his good arm around both children. "I'm here. Daddy's here. You're safe now. Everything's going to be okay." I watched as Courtney was led to a police car, handcuffed, still crying. She looked back at her children one last time. The pain in her eyes was real, the love was real, but so was the terrible choice she'd made. As the police car drove away, Emma asked the question I'd been dreading. "Why did Mommy do bad things?" Brian looked at me, lost. I knelt beside the children. "Sometimes," I said carefully, "grown-ups make very wrong choices when they're scared and hurting. Your mommy was scared, and she made a choice that hurt people. She's going to have to face the consequences of that choice, but that doesn't mean she doesn't love you. It just means she made a terrible mistake." "Are we going to see her again?" Jake asked. "I don't know, sweetheart. That will be up to the courts to decide. But right now, you're going to stay with me and your dad. We're going to take care of you. You're safe, and you're loved, and that's what matters most." The children clung to Brian as Frank helped him back to the truck. Marcus approached me. "You did good tonight, Mandy. You saved those kids. What happens to Courtney now?" "She'll be charged with conspiracy to commit murder, child endangerment, embezzlement, flight risk. She's looking at 20 to 30 years, possibly life, but if she cooperates, pleads guilty, shows genuine remorse, the DA might go easier on her." I looked at the farmhouse, at the police officers collecting evidence, at my son and grandchildren climbing into Frank's truck. This whole nightmare started with $80,000. I said, "That's all it took to nearly destroy our entire family." Marcus nodded grimly. "Debt, addiction, desperation. It's a recipe for tragedy. We see it all the time. But Wed survived. Against all odds, Wed survived." The drive back to Massachusetts was quiet. Emma and Jake fell asleep in the back seat. Emma curled against her father's good side, Jake leaning on my shoulder. Brian stared out the window, his face blank with shock and grief. Frank drove steadily through the night. Marcus had stayed behind in Virginia to coordinate with the FBI and process the crime scene at Angela's farmhouse. Wed learned that Angela had no idea Courtney was planning to flee the country. Shed simply thought her sister needed a place to stay for a few days during a separation from Brian. As dawn broke over the highway, Frank spoke quietly. "Where are we taking them?" "My house," I said. "There's room. Emma can have the guest room. Jake can sleep in the office on the pull-out couch. Brian can take his old bedroom. I should find my own place," Brian mumbled. "I've caused you enough trouble. You're recovering from a gunshot wound," I said firmly. "You're staying with me until you're healed. No arguments." We arrived home at 6 in the morning. Frank helped us get the children and Brian inside. Emma woke up briefly, confused about where she was, then fell back asleep when I tucked her into the guest bed. Jake sat on the edge of his makeshift bed in the office, staring at nothing. "Jake," I sat beside him. "Sweetheart, I know everything feels overwhelming right now, but you're going to be okay. We're all going to be okay. Dad almost died," he whispered. "You almost died. Mom tried to kill you. How is any of that okay?" I didn't have a good answer. How do you explain to a 10-year-old that the world can be cruel, that people we love can betray us, that life can fall apart in an instant? "You're right," I said. "It's not okay. What happened was terrible. Your dad made mistakes with gambling that hurt your family. Your mom made even worse choices that hurt people. And you and Emma got caught in the middle of adult problems that should never have touched you. Why didn't they just talk to each other? Why didn't they fix it? Sometimes people are too scared or too proud or too ashamed to ask for help. Your dad was ashamed of his gambling problem, so he hid it and lied about it. Your mom was scared and angry, so instead of trying to get help for your family, she made a choice that destroyed it. They both failed. But Jake, you and Emma didn't fail. None of this is your fault. He started crying then. The kind of deep, body-shaking sobs that come from a child holding in too much pain for too long. I held him while he cried, wishing I could take away his hurt. When he finally calmed down, he asked, "What's going to happen now?" "Your dad is going to get help for his gambling problem. Hess going to go to treatment, to meetings, to therapy. Hess going to work very hard to become the father you deserve. Your mom is going to face the legal consequences of what she did. She'll probably go to prison for a long time. You'll stay with me and your dad. You'll go back to school, see your friends, play soccer. Life will start to feel normal again. It won't happen overnight, but it will happen." "Will you stay with us?" he asked. "Will you take care of us? Every single day?" I promised. For as long as you need me. Over the next 3 months, we built a new kind of normal. Brian went to an inpatient gambling addiction treatment facility for 60 days. While he was there, I took care of Emma and Jake. I enrolled them in therapy with a child psychologist who specialized in family trauma. I drove them to school every morning, helped with homework every afternoon, made dinner every evening. Frank started joining us for Sunday dinners. He'd bring dessert, usually something He'd picked up from the bakery, and He'd tell stories that made the kids laugh. Slowly, very slowly, the darkness lifted. Brian came home different, quieter, more serious, but also more present. He attended Gamblers Anonymous meetings 3 times a week. He started seeing his own therapist. He sold his truck and most of his expensive possessions to pay off his legitimate debts. He moved in with me, not temporarily like Id initially suggested, but as a long-term arrangement while he rebuilt his life and his relationship with his children. The legal proceedings moved forward. Vincent Torres was charged with 23 counts of first-degree murder, attempted murder, conspiracy, racketeering, and fraud. The evidence was overwhelming. Between the recording from my wire, testimony from Carl and JP, and the FBI's investigation, prosecutors were confident Vincent would never see the outside of a prison again. Officer Dale Preston, the corrupt cop who'd been feeding Vincent information, pleaded guilty to conspiracy and obstruction of justice. He received 15 years. Courtney's case was more complicated. Her lawyers argued that she'd been coerced by Vincent, that she'd been under duress, that she'd never actually intended to follow through with the murder plot. But the evidence showed otherwise. Financial records proved she'd been embezzling from Brian's business for 2 years, stockpiling money for her escape. Text messages between her and Vincent showed clear premeditation and planning. In the end, she pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit murder and embezzlement. She was sentenced to 25 years, with the possibility of parole in 12. Brian took the children to see her once. 3 weeks after her sentencing, they drove to the Women's Correctional Facility in Western Massachusetts. Emma was terrified, clinging to Brian's hand. Jake was angry, refusing to speak. When they came home, Emma climbed into my lap and said, "Mommy cried. She said she was sorry." "Do you believe her?" I asked. Emma thought about it. "I think she's sad, but I'm still mad at her." "You're allowed to be both," I told her. "You can love someone and be angry with them at the same time. You can miss someone and not forgive them. Feelings are complicated." Jake disappeared into his room and didn't come out until dinner. When he finally joined us at the table, he said, "I don't want to see her again. Not for a long time." Brian nodded. "That's okay. When you're ready, if you're ever ready, well, go, but there's no pressure." The children started calling me Grandma Mandy instead of just Grandma, a small intimacy that touched me deeply. They settled into school, made friends, joined after-school activities. Emma started taking gymnastics. Jake joined the soccer team. Slowly, their laughter came back. Frank became a fixture in our lives. He taught Jake how to change a tire, how to check oil, basic car maintenance. He helped Emma build a birdhouse for the backyard. He and Brian bonded over their shared experiences with loss and addiction. Frank's son had been an addict. Brian was an addict. They understood each other's pain. And Frank and we developed something I hadn't expected at 62 years old. Friendship, certainly, but also something deeper, something tender and careful. We'd been through a trauma together. We'd saved each other's lives. In different ways, that creates a bond that's hard to explain. One Sunday evening, after dinner, after the kids had gone upstairs to do homework, Frank and I sat on the back porch with coffee. "I've been thinking," Frank said. "Dangerous activity." I teased. He smiled. "I've been alone for 5 years. After Danny died, after my wife left, I thought that was it for me. I thought I'd spend the rest of my life in that shop, fixing cars, going home to an empty house. I'd accepted it. And now I'm sitting on your porch, drinking coffee, listening to your grandkids laugh upstairs, and I'm thinking that maybe life isn't over. Maybe there are still good things ahead." I reached over and took his hand. "I think you're right." We sat like that for a while, holding hands, watching the sun set. Inside, Brian was helping Emma with her math homework. I could hear him explaining fractions with patience I hadn't heard from him in years. Jake was practicing violin, the notes drifting through the open window. Not perfect, but improving. This was healing. This was redemption. Not perfect, not without pain, but real and honest and worth fighting for. 4 months after that terrible day in the warehouse, I thought we'd found our peace. The legal cases were resolved. The therapists were helping. The children were healing. Brian had been sober from gambling for 120 days. Had found work with a construction company. Honest work that didn't require him to run his own business or manage money. Life felt stable for the first time in over a year. Then everything fell apart again. It started with a phone call from Marcus. Had stayed in touch with our family, checking in regularly, updating us on the various legal proceedings. This call was different. His voice was urgent. "Mandy, I need you to listen carefully. Courtney's been moved to a minimum security facility for good behavior. Yesterday, during a supervised outdoor recreation period, she escaped." My blood went cold. How? She had help. Someone on the outside coordinated it. "She's been gone for 18 hours. We don't know where she is, but Mandy, we have reason to believe she's heading your way. She wants the children. Yes, and possibly revenge." The psychologist who evaluated her during the trial noted severe narcissistic tendencies. People like that often can't accept responsibility for their actions. They blame others. In Courtney's mind, this is all your fault. You're the reason she lost her children, her freedom, her life. Brian was at work. Emma was at gymnastics. Jake was upstairs doing homework. What do I do? "Lock your doors. I'm sending a patrol car to your house right now. Don't let anyone in until I get there." I hung up and immediately called Frank. He was at the shop, closing up for the day. "I'll be there in 5 minutes," he said without hesitation. I locked every door, checked every window. I went upstairs and told Jake we were having a family emergency, that he needed to stay in his room and not answer the door for anyone except me, Frank, or the police. "Is it Mom?" he asked, his face going pale. I didn't want to lie to him. "Yes. She escaped from prison. But the police are looking for her, and we're safe here." The fear in his 10-year-old eyes broke my heart. Brian came home early, alerted by my frantic text. Frank arrived minutes later. A police car pulled up outside, 2 officers taking position on the street. We waited. Emma's gymnastics class ended at 6. It arranged for her coach to keep her at the gym until I could pick her up. I called the gym to explain the situation. The coach, a kind woman named Sarah, immediately agreed to stay late with Emma. At 7:30, as the sun was setting, a car pulled up across the street. Not a police car, a sedan, dark blue, Rental plates. Courtney got out. She looked different. Thinner, her hair shorter, her face hard. She saw the police car and froze. One of the officers got out. "Mom, you need to come with us." Courtney turned and ran. The officers gave chase. Marcus, who'd just arrived in his own vehicle, joined the pursuit. I watched from the window as they disappeared around the corner. 5 minutes later, Marcus called. "We lost her. She knows the neighborhood. She could be anywhere." Brian grabbed his car keys. "I'm going to get Emma. Take Frank with you," I said. "Don't go alone." They left together. I stood at the window with Jake, watching the street, waiting. 20 minutes passed. 30. My phone rang. "Brian, we have Emma. She's safe. We're heading back now." Relief washed over me. But then I heard it. A sound from downstairs. The basement door opening. It locked that door. I knew it locked it. "Jake," I whispered. "Go into my bedroom. Lock the door. Call 911. Tell them someone's in the house." His eyes went wide, but he didn't argue. He ran to my bedroom. I grabbed the baseball bat Brian kept in the hallway closet. My heart pounded as I moved toward the stairs. Courtney emerged from the basement, a screwdriver in her hand. She must have broken the lock on the exterior basement door, the one that led to the backyard. "Where are my children?" she demanded. I raised the bat. "You need to leave. The police are coming. Those are my kids, Mandy. Mine. You don't get to keep them from me. You tried to have their father killed. You tried to have me killed. You don't get to play the victim here." She stepped closer. "This is your fault. All of it. If you'd just given Brian his inheritance when Gerald died, none of this would have happened. But no, you had to control everything, had to keep the money, had to make my husband beg." Gerald structured the will that way, to protect Brian from his gambling addiction. "You know that. I don't care about the excuses," she screamed. "I spent 14 years married to a man who chose poker and blackjack over his family. Do you know what that's like? Watching him destroy everything, lie about everything, steal from our children's future? And you enabled him. You covered for him. You made excuses. So you decided to kill him. I decided to survive." Tears ran down her face. I needed out. I needed money to start over. And yes, I made a deal with the devil to get it. I know what I am. I know what I did. But I did it for Emma and Jake. Everything I did was to give them a better life. By making them orphans. She flinched. "Courtney, listen to me. You're not thinking clearly. You're upset. You're desperate. But if you hurt me, if you hurt anyone, there's no coming back from this. You'll never see your children again. I'm already never seeing them again." She sobbed. 25 years. They'll be adults by the time I get out. I've already lost them. Then don't make it worse. Behind her, I saw movement. Marcus, entering through the basement door, gun drawn, moving silently up the stairs. Courtney saw my eyes shift. She spun around, raising the screwdriver. "Put it down," Marcus commanded. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Courtney dropped the screwdriver. It clattered on the floor. She sank to her knees, hands over her face, sobbing. Marcus handcuffed her while reading her rights for the second time in 4 months. This time, she didn't resist. She just cried. As officers led her out to the patrol car, she looked at me one last time. "Tell them I love them," she said. "Tell Emma and Jake I love them." I nodded. "I will." But as I watched the car drive away, I wondered if love was enough. If love without wisdom, without self-control, without sacrifice, meant anything at all. Brian and Frank pulled into the driveway moments later with Emma. I rushed out to meet them. Emma jumped into my arms. "Grandma Mandy." I was so scared. "I know, sweetheart. But you're safe now. Everything's okay." Jake came out of the house, having heard the commotion. The family gathered in the living room. Brian sat his children down and told them what had happened. That their mother had escaped, had come to the house, had been caught again. "Is she going to keep trying to take us?" Emma asked, her voice small. "No," Brian said firmly. She'll be in maximum security now. No more minimum security, no more privileges. She's not getting out again. I don't want to see her anymore, Jake said. Ever. Brian looked at me, uncertain. That's your choice, I said to Jake. When you're older, if you change your mind, that option will be there. But for now, if you need to protect yourself from more hurt, that's okay. Emma curled up against her father. I'm tired of being scared. Me too, baby, Brian said, kissing the top of her head. Me too. That night, after the children were asleep, after the police finished taking statements, after Frank had gone home, Brian and I sat at the kitchen table. I brought this into our lives, he said quietly. My gambling, my debts, my weakness. I destroyed my marriage, endangered my children, almost got you killed. How do you not hate me? I reached across the table and took his hand. Because you're my son. Because you're trying. Because every day you wake up and choose to do better. Because when Vincent pointed that gun at me, you threw yourself in front of the bullet. That's who you really are. Brian, not the gambler, not the debtor, not the liar. You're the man who saved his mother's life. You're the father who's fighting every day to be better for his children. I don't deserve your forgiveness. None of us deserve grace, sweetheart. We receive it anyway. That's what makes it grace. He broke down then, crying in a way I hadn't seen since he was a child. I moved around the table and held him while he wept, mourning his marriage, his mistakes, the years he'd lost to addiction. When he finally composed himself, he said, I'm going to spend the rest of my life making this right. I'm going to be the father Emma and Jake deserve. I'm going to be the son you deserve. You already are, I said. You're already becoming that man. Outside, the night was quiet. Inside, my family was safe, broken, healing, but safe. And for now, that was enough. It's been a year now since that morning in Frank's shop when he told me not to get behind the wheel. A year since my world turned upside down and I learned that danger can come from the most unexpected places, even from within your own family. Vincent Torres is serving life without parole. The prosecution used our case to link him to 17 other murders spanning 12 years. The families of his victims finally have justice. Carl and JP, his associates, received reduced sentences of 12 and 15 years respectively in exchange for their testimony. Officer Dale Preston is 3 years into his 15-year sentence for corruption. Courtney is in maximum security now. After her escape attempt, they added 5 more years to her sentence. She'll be eligible for parole in 17 years. Emma will be 24. Jake will be 27. By then, they'll be adults who can make their own choices about whether they want a relationship with their mother. For now, they've chosen distance. They send her a card on Mother's Day, at my encouragement, but they don't visit. Maybe someday they will. Maybe someday they'll be ready to forgive. Or maybe they won't. That's their right. Brian has been clean from gambling for 1 year and 4 months. He still attends Gamblers Anonymous meetings 3 times a week. Has completed the 12 steps. Has working full-time now, managing a construction crew, earning an honest living. He sold the business that Courtney embezzled from, paid back what debts he could, and started fresh. Has rebuilding his credit, his reputation, his life, most importantly, has rebuilding his relationship with his children. He coaches Jake's soccer team. He takes Emma to gymnastics every Tuesday and Thursday. He helps with homework, makes breakfast on weekends, shows up to school events. Has present in a way he never was before. The kids are starting to trust him again. It's slow, careful, fragile, but it's real. I learned something about Gerald's will that I hadn't known. His lawyer, Donald Spencer, told me about a codicil Gerald had written 2 months before he died. If I died under suspicious circumstances before the age of 80, the entire estate would go to charity, specifically to organizations that help families affected by gambling addiction. Brian would receive nothing. Gerald was trying to protect us both. He knew that addiction makes people vulnerable to predators like Vincent Torres. He structured everything to remove the financial incentive for my murder. My brilliant, careful husband was protecting us even after death. I established the Gerald Paulson Foundation with part of my inheritance. We fund gambling addiction treatment programs, support groups for families affected by addiction, and financial literacy programs. We've helped 37 families in the past year. It's not enough to make up for the pain we went through, but it's something. It's purpose born from tragedy. Emma and Jake are thriving. They're both in therapy, processing their trauma at their own pace. Emma still has nightmares sometimes. Jake has trust issues. But they're good kids, resilient kids, surrounded by love and stability. They live with Brian and me. We've turned my house into a real family home, full of laughter and homework and soccer equipment and gymnastics medals. And then there's Frank. Frank, who saved my life by discovering the sabotaged brake lines. Frank, who drove me to Virginia to rescue my grandchildren. Frank, who shows up every Sunday with dessert and terrible jokes that make the kids groan. Frank, who helped Brian find his way back from addiction by sharing his own story of loss and survival. Frank and I got married 3 months ago. A small ceremony in my backyard, just family and close friends. Emma was the flower girl. Jake walked me down the aisle. Brian stood beside Frank as his best man. I wore a simple dress, nothing fancy. We exchanged vows under an oak tree that Gerald planted 30 years ago. It felt right, having Gerald's tree witness the beginning of this new chapter. I'm not replacing Gerald. You don't replace a love that lasted 43 years. But I'm adding to my life, making room for new love, new joy, new possibilities. At 63 years old, I'm starting over in ways I never imagined. Frank sold his shop and retired. We travel now, taking Emma and Jake on trips during school breaks. We went to the Grand Canyon last summer. We're planning to visit Yellowstone next year. We're building memories, the kind that heal and strengthen. Brian moved into the apartment above Frank's old shop. It's small, but it's his. Hez learning to stand on his own 2 feet again. The kids stay with him every other weekend. Those weekends are precious to him. He calls them his practice runs for when he's ready to have them full time again. I think that day is coming soon. I think he's almost ready. I want to share something I've learned through all of this. Something important. Family isn't about perfection. It's not about never making mistakes or never hurting each other. Family is about showing up, especially when it's hard. It's about fighting for each other, even when you're terrified. It's about choosing love over bitterness, hope over despair, forgiveness over grudges. Brian made terrible choices. His gambling addiction nearly destroyed all of us. But when Vincent pointed that gun at me, my son threw himself in front of that bullet. In that moment, beneath all the lies and mistakes and years of poor decisions, I saw who he really was. He was a man who loved his mother more than his own life. That's the person I chose to forgive. That's the person I chose to save. Courtney made even worse choices. She tried to have us killed. She traumatized her own children. She deserves the consequences she's facing. But I don't hate her. I pity her. She was desperate and scared, and she made a deal with evil. Now she's paying the price. Maybe someday she'll find redemption. Maybe someday Emma and Jake will be able to forgive her. I don't know. That's not my journey to walk. What I do know is this. Trust can be broken, but it can also be rebuilt. One small choice at a time. Brian rebuilds trust with his children every time he shows up, every time he tells the truth, every time he chooses them over his addiction. I rebuilt trust with myself by refusing to give up, by getting behind that wheel despite the danger, by fighting for my family when it would have been easier to run away. Gerald's love protected us even from beyond the grave. His careful planning, his wisdom about addiction, his understanding of his son's vulnerabilities, all of that saved our lives. Sometimes the people we love leave us gifts we don't discover until we need them most. Frank taught me that life isn't over just because we've experienced loss. His son died. His marriage ended. He spent 5 years alone, thinking that was his fate. Then one day, he crawled out from under a car and saw cut brake lines and made a choice to get involved, to help, to care. That choice changed both our lives. The trap wasn't behind the wheel of my car. The real trap was fear. Fear of acting. fear of trusting, fear of fighting for what mattered. When Frank told me not to get behind the wheel, he was trying to protect me. But sometimes protection means moving forward despite danger. Sometimes love means risking everything. I got behind that wheel. I drove to that warehouse. I faced Vincent Torres. I saved my son's life, and in doing so, I saved my own. Now, a year later, I'm sitting in my kitchen on a Sunday afternoon. Brian is in the backyard teaching Jake how to throw a football. Emma is showing Frank her latest gymnastics routine on the lawn. The autumn sun is warm. The air smells like the apple pie cooling on the counter. In a few minutes, we'll all sit down to dinner together. This family we've rebuilt from the ashes of tragedy. This is what redemption looks like. Not perfect, not without scars, but real and honest and beautiful. Gerald would be proud. I think he'd approve of Frank, of the way he loves me and the grandchildren. I think he'd be relieved to see Brian finally getting help, finally facing his demons. I think he'd be happy that Emma and Jake are safe and loved. I miss him every day, but I'm no longer drowning in grief. I'm living again, fully, joyfully, gratefully. That's the real lesson here. Life will throw terrible things at you. Betrayal, danger, loss, heartbreak. You'll face moments when getting behind the wheel, metaphorically or literally, feels impossible. When the trap ahead seems too dangerous to risk. When giving up seems easier than fighting. But if you want to save the people you love, if you want to save yourself, sometimes you have to take that risk. You have to get behind the wheel despite the danger. You have to trust that your repairs will hold, that your allies will have your back, that courage matters more than certainty. You have to choose love over fear, every single time. Now I have a question for you. Have you ever had to make a choice between protecting yourself and fighting for someone you love? Have you ever had to decide whether to get behind the wheel despite the danger ahead? What did you choose, and how did it change your life? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this story touched you, if it made you think about your own family, your own choices, your own capacity for forgiveness and courage, please hit that like button. It helps more people find these stories. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future stories. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message about redemption and second chances, please share this with them. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here, for caring, for believing that broken families can heal and that love can triumph over betrayal. I wish you courage when you face your own dangers. I wish you wisdom when you face difficult choices. I wish you the kind of love that's worth fighting for, worth risking everything to protect. And I wish you peace, the kind of peace that comes from knowing you showed up, you fought, and you chose love over fear. Until next time, take care of each other. Family, in all its messy, complicated, beautiful forms, is worth saving.